Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we have new data, and this doesn't come from mainstream media polls, but this comes from polls of certain demographics, this one in particular, the union members that are a part of Teamsters. And they polled Trump v. Biden back in the day, and now they're polling Trump v. Harris. And their data confirms virtually every single thing that we've been saying about Kamala Harris being an extraordinarily weaker candidate for, the appeal to working class voters than, Joe Biden a couple years ago. And this is exactly what it's showing. Donald Trump on the economy, his messaging is resonating, and Kamala Harris is once again this unknown figure to a lot of these people, and she's not doing all that well, and it shows. And you can go state by state, the same thing across the board is showing up in the data. And you look at Arizona, 43-point swing, went from Biden plus 25 to Trump plus 19. Pennsylvania, very crucial, Biden plus 1. Remember Scranton Joe? That's not even a very big lead. But still, Trump opening up a 34-point lead. And you could say, well, the variance between certain states is, different. The bottom line is that there's big swings across the board. Maybe it's not 34, but in that demographic of, working class union members in the Rust Belt, a 5-point swing could be life or death for the Democrats. And Michigan, it's 52 points. Biden by 26 to Trump by 27. Minnesota from Biden plus 20 to Trump by 25. Nevada from Biden plus 7 to Trump by 23. North Carolina from Biden plus 12 to Trump plus 23. Wisconsin, there must be an oversample of Madison in the first poll or something, because you go from a plus 60 to a plus 17 for Trump. I don't know if the swing is that big, but Virginia, you see a 38-point swing. But the bottom line is that Harris is probably doing about 5 to 10 points worse with white working class voters and working class voters as a whole compared to Joe Biden, even pre-debate Biden. And that's what the Teamsters polls have showed. So while these polls, maybe it's not a 43-point swing overall among the same individuals, what it shows is that there is a realignment happening, and it's continuing to accelerate, and this is not good news for the Democrats. And we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about some other recent developments in the race and why they're not good for Kamala Harris. But I have to tell you guys about shop.redeaglepolitics.com, my merch store, really quickly, because the 2024 election, it's right around the corner. We're 6 weeks away. So why not take advantage of our new deal over at shop.redeaglepolitics.com. Free shipping on orders over $50, and you could buy one, get one 20% off all t-shirts, tank tops, and mugs for a limited time. We have the Trump Iconic Mug. It's my favorite mug, and you got the inspirational quote on the back, but you got the Trump bullet design on the front with the American flag. But we also have many, many more designs. We have the Make Cats Safe Again, Make America Gain Again, Trump mugshot design. We got all the old designs, the America First design. We got the Teddy Roosevelt mug as well, the Red Eagle Politics design. All this and more at shop.redeaglepolitics.com. The link is in the description and pinned comment down below. But this data is huge. And I'm skeptical of some of the, swings because there is a little bit of an inconsistency. But if you take the aggregate of it, it's a big shift. Even if you take the shift and cut it in half, it's still a big, big shift from Joe Biden, who was leading these polls, to Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Scranton Joe versus San Francisco Kamala. Yeah, Democrats, if Kamala Harris loses the election, are they possibly going to sit back here and say, maybe we should have kept Joe? You never know. It's possible, and this election's far from a done deal, but we have a new poll out of CNN, the same pollster that at this point in 2020 had Joe Biden up by around 15 points. Nationally, it has Kamala Harris up by 1, and that's not good enough, because when you put this data in the swingometer, Donald Trump wins handily in the Electoral College. And you talk about a relatively deadlocked race nationally. You talk about the fact that Harris is underperforming with black voters in yet another poll. She's underperforming with Hispanics. But, the main demographic is white working class voters. And some of the working class, aspect does carry over to like Hispanic working class voters, where Democrats are bleeding a lot of support. But if you talk about the 64 to 29, those are Hillary Clinton numbers more so than Biden. If you want to talk about, the 2020 election here, the swingometer had it at 62-36. If we're talking about 64 to 29, that is a big, big shift. And already you look at the map here, Donald Trump already out of the gate, he'd get to 316. And it's true that according to the polls, they show, Harris is doing a little bit better with, white college grads, and that's technically true. I don't know if Trump is really going to get only 40% of them. He may actually stagnate, because what's really changed much since then? Not a lot. But if you look at this, Donald Trump, according to the swingometer, he still leads. And when it comes down to black voters, if Harris is really struggling, she's at 79. I think she's going to get in the mid to high 80s still. But let's just say Trump gets 12%. Let's even say Harris gets 85, 86%, but turnout dips a little bit. Already, Donald Trump, he wins Georgia. He's at 312. Now, you could talk about the Hispanic vote, and we haven't even touched that. Nardi, Arizona's going Republican. Nevada is going Republican. The Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Trump by 4. You know what that's in line with? The Kamala Harris alleged internal polling. That's very telling. Her campaign is not that confident. Her campaign is probably more confident in a pathway that includes like Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina from some of these memos that we've seen, and it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not. We haven't even touched the Hispanic vote. Turnout likely might go up just because of demographic shift, but when it's gone up in the past, Trump has gained on net percentage-wise. He might crack 40-something. As for the Asian other vote, that's a little bit of a demographic that's not significant in most swing states, maybe a state like Nevada, the Filipino vote, but that's, more Republican, largely working class, moving to the right to an extent there as well. And we've seen that on full display looking at precinct shifts from 2016 to 2020, even 2022 in some places in Nevada. But you look at this, Donald Trump, he would win the popular vote under this scenario. It's a dead heat, 47.5, 47.4. Now, there's a lot of undecideds. You could even say that the white college or the white non-college vote, some of those undecideds, if they go to Trump, he could really, really see these massive shifts in the Northeast. And we could see that happen, and that would be absolutely huge. And Kamala Harris in her campaign, what she's been doing, she's been hell-bent on making a lot of people angry in this country by just the incompetence of her campaign. And she's not even going to the Al Smith dinner. That's a tradition. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, they traded blows in 2016. Mitt Romney and Obama, they roast each other. It's friendly. But Kamala Harris, she can't handle a friendly roast from Trump. And she's not going. And she's getting roasted by Cardinal Dolan, who leads and heads the Al Smith dinner. Al Smith was the first Catholic nominee for president back in 1928. He didn't do too well, but still, it's significant, and this is a tradition that all Americans, mainly Catholics, take pride in. And Kamala Harris is just skipping the dinner, and it hasn't happened in 40 years. And the last time it happened, Cardinal Dolan reminded people when asked about it, the last guy to turn it down lost 49 out of 50 states. That's not exactly a good number. Kamala Harris, she has this anti-Catholic bias. We see that. She said back in the day that the Knights of Columbus was like a hate group. She's got this long tenured track record. Now, Joe Biden, a lot of people will say he was a fake Catholic, supports abortion, all this stuff. That's true. But when it comes down to the appearances that he's able to keep up in these good graces of a lot of these like working class nominal Catholics up in the Northeast, he was able to have that, a facade of an appeal, one could say. Kamala Harris doesn't have that at all whatsoever. And when you talk about certain demography in the Rust Belt, where are a lot of American Catholics? The Rust Belt. Biden, he did have some unique appeal to northeastern Pennsylvania. He did well with Polish American voters, Irish American voters. Kamala Harris takes that away. Now, obviously, Biden, if he was running this time, he could still have done worse because current Biden is not the same as 2020 Biden. But when you look at this is not good data overall. Now, you talk about the evangelical voters. They're largely in Donald Trump's corner. We know that. We understand that. But the Catholic voters, mainly the white Catholic voters across Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and other places in the Rust Belt region, they are decisive. That is a bellwether demographic. And Donald Trump is poised to do well, especially among Polish American voters. Kamala Harris is now trying to go out there with Zelensky to appeal to the Polish demographic. Now, the Poles don't like Putin. That's true. But again, they don't like war either, typically the Polish American voters. And it shows desperation. We've just flipped Luzerne County up in Pennsylvania in the voter registration data, which it was largely voting Republican anyways, but still, Donald Trump going out there, he has virtually flipped that county Republican at the presidential level for years to come. But you see some of the shifts in 2020. We saw to the left in Macomb County, Michigan, that we saw in certain places of the Chicago area, certain places of Wisconsin, and in the WOW counties, the BOW counties, among those Polish voters. So many people that analyze elections, they don't look at the, I guess you'd say underlying factors that show shifts in the data. They're just like, oh, it's the suburbs. Oh, it's the rurals. Oh, it's the... No, I mean, these things matter. We hear a lot about the Hispanic vote, and it's decisive in some places like Arizona, Nevada. It's true. You hear a lot about the black vote, which, again, in certain parts of the South, it does play a role in determining the outcome of certain states. But you don't hear a lot about the German American vote, the Polish American vote, but they're decisive. They're very decisive. And Donald Trump did well in 2016, didn't do as well with them in 2020 in terms of a percentage margin. He's looking this time around to do better and better in 2024, and he does have that appeal to that region. You're taking Biden out of the equation. 2020, Biden's gone. Live by the swingometer, die by the swingometer, and I say that in a very pro-swingometer fashion. I don't know if Trump's going to carry New Hampshire or Maine. I don't know if he's going to get 68% of the white non-college vote, but Kamala Harris, she might do 5 to 10 points worse, given these Teamsters numbers, given some of the other things that we've seen compared to 2020 Biden, and that basically renders her DOA in the Electoral College regardless of how much she gains with white college grads, which is a lot harder to do in the Rust Belt because, she's closer to maxed compared to certain places like, maybe North Carolina, for example, which she's likely not going to win anyways. And again, there's a very sizable segment of white college graduates, mainly men, who are going to vote for Trump. He does have a high floor there. With white college women, she'll probably tend to do well, but Trump does neutralize a lot of that when it comes down to his, hands-off-ish approach to abortion. And I like his recent approach he had yesterday. He said, that's all they talk about, but she'll never be able to do anything about it. She'll never have the votes. It's true. I've said that for how long? And now Trump, his messaging is sharpening it down the stretch. Don the closer, Teflon Don. He's out there to win this thing. And when you look at the data, it looks good. And in terms of the early vote data in a place like Virginia, a lot of people are saying it could be closer than whatever the swingometer has it at this point now. But face facts, if Virginia gets a few points closer, this is not the midterm elections. Every state is operating under a similar national environment. Obviously you'll have some exceptions like, Florida's going to veer to the right, which already was showing up in the registration data. Now, a lot of other states are showing the same thing, like Arizona, Nevada, maybe to a lesser extent, but still. Virginia is not going to be likely in a vacuum. If Republicans are energized in rural Virginia to show up, they're likely going to show up enough to the point where you're not losing North Carolina. You're not probably losing even Georgia. And if you're doing respectably well in Nova, you probably are doing well enough in the collar counties around Philadelphia to go out there and hold the state of Pennsylvania as well. So do keep that in mind. It's a gradient. By and large, there are some exceptions, but presidential elections typically operate under this gradient type of system. So if you're doing really well in one state, in the next state, if it's similar demography, you're probably going to do well enough to win it there either. So the Harris campaign, they could be in a hell of a lot of trouble, but we got to close and we got to get people out to vote. And that's important. Find at least one person, get them out to vote, get them registered and make sure they vote, but don't just stop there. Try to get as many people as you possibly can. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.